Hello everybody, welcome. I'm Novo2, thank you for watching this video, and like always, be sure to check out the timestamps. I like the talk. But look, it's a Back for Blood video, yes. Yes, I'm actually really glad that I took my little break from it here, because now that I begin to see all the teasing, see the tweaks they made with that little update, which I'm not going to cover. Swing Point did a great job of covering it, so go watch that. But we got some teasers here, right? Couple of teases plus a little extra thing that we need to plug at the end here. But now I'm getting excited for future content here for Back for Blood. I'm gonna have to step back into it. More content. We'll see how it goes. Bear Trap locks target into place, dealing damage over time. Very cool. The things we'll need to know, or we wait to find out here, is can a common ridden trigger this? Can a common ridden trigger this? Because obviously, ideally, we want to use this bear trap on something that's special. A tall boy, a bruiser, maybe a breaker, though I don't think a breaker would be stopped by this. That wouldn't make much sense, right? Same with the ogre, things like that. Maybe a hag you can stop with this. But sort of a neat idea. My assumption here is that you're going to have use speed in order to set this up. It's not going to be like a thing you just instantly throw or do like a throwable. That's my assumption, that it's going to require some amount of use speed to set up. Which, if that's the case, I love. The thing that Back for Blood has that I think is it's niche, it's shining glory. I don't know what I'm going with. The thing that Back for Blood has, and that it's really cool, is that it has all these extra mechanics, all these extra numbers and behind the scenes things, and this synergizes with that, and mechanics, right? Use speed, super cool mechanic. And I've said it before in past videos where I would love to see more ways in which use speed gets value, because other than doing like Act 1 and having a bunch of use speed on one character for the field cannon, there wasn't a whole bunch of need for it, right? But now with the bear trap and was a sneaky secret passage with the card that allows you to unlock alarm doors and things like that, I love to see more potential opportunities for use speed to get more value, and for players to consider running one or two cards, or trying to sneak one in here or there, or giving it more value to purchase a use speed card if you come across it during a campaign. So Bear Trap, very cool. Might be hard to use if it triggers on common ridden, because then that might be an issue as far as them wasting your bear trap. Also curious to see if a bear trap is maybe not consumed if it triggers on a ridden. I assume it insta kills a common, and maybe you can pick it back up again because a common used it. But if it gets used on a special, then it's fully burnt out after the special is eliminated. So that's my assumption. Very cool to see. We'll see how it works out, and if it does if it does take advantage of use speed, that's what I like to see. Next is Smoke Bomb. Create a cloud of smoke on impact. Reduce perception of ridden hiding cleaners inside the smoke. I think reduce perception is interesting wording, and that it doesn't say like it makes you invisible, doesn't remove aggro. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be particularly valuable. The scenario that I imagine in my head is, when do you want to use anything? When do you want to throw something or use your skills or your abilities or what have you? It's during a horde event, right? Or a boss fight, right? It's in those events where there's common and specials and things are happening and things are getting shot around and vomit and things are charging, right? It's in those moments where you want to use your tools to regain control of a situation. The smoke bomb obviously falls into that category. The scenario I imagine, though, really is like, let's say there's a horde of zombies rushing at you from down the hall. Can you throw the smoke bomb ahead of you? Do zombies that run through the smoke bomb de-aggro, get disinterested, go docile once they enter the smoke? Do they slow down? Do they get lost and wander in it? And would it do the same thing to specials? And so I don't know exactly how this works, but in a very general sense, right, with an extra bear trap, with a smoke bomb, now we have new things that can potentially take advantage of different cards and synergies, and maybe even have cards that say like, hey, your smoke bombs can also can also poison things, right? Like a card that synergizes with smoke bombs and things like that. There's just, the more they add, the more potential there is for more cards, and that makes the game more complex and potentially have more depth and things like that. So very cool. But I think I'm more interested in the bear trap, and then a bait jar. This is a bile jar, as far as I can tell, right? Attacks common written upon impact. It's a bile jar, but it only does common. Though I guess that was the same thing in Left 4 Dead as well. But if you hit a special with the bile jar, they would swarm the special and choke it out, basically. But yeah, so here's the bile jar, and again, this nice common idea to just gain control of a situation. Curious on how long it lasts, because if we think about the scenario in which this would be good, it's a lot of the times the same scenario where a Molotov would be good as well, right? You got a horde events happening, and you could potentially hold off a choke point with a bait jar. Actually, I take that back. This is going to be more useful in situations where you want to use a pipe bomb, right? If you're in a choke point, you don't need to use a bait jar, but you may want to use a Molotov, depending on the circumstances. If you're out in the open, though, Molotov is not good, but pipe bombs and bait jars will be good, so that you can funnel all the zombies to one place when you're out in the open. So, very cool. We'll see if you can purchase this. I guess that's the thing, right? Like, maybe like the smoke bomb is the poor man's flashbang, and the bait jar will be the poor man's pipe bomb, sort of thing, sort of concept here. In which, if they are cheaper versions of those things, and potentially that might synergize better with like Magician's Apprentice and what have you, the reuse chance stuff. So cool. Nice little thing here. Ooh, this is the part I'm most excited about. New mechanics and cards here. New cards incoming. The first 3 released. I'm sure they'll release more in the future, and we'll cover them as they come out. Expired T5. Activate your support slot to create a 10-meter area that damages enemies for 8 damage per second as fire damage to weak spots. Activation costs, and this is the new mechanic that's super cool. It costs 40 AR ammo, 40 assault rifle ammo, and it disables your support slot. Doesn't say anything about a cooldown, so I assume that maybe you can spam it over and over again. Maybe you can only have one T5 field open at a time. But basically, you're a walking Molotov. So this is a very cool concept. I'm a little hesitant about the loss of your support slot. This is definitely not going to be, unless it's broken somehow, this is not going to be a solo card. You would never run this card by yourself. You would never run this card with random teammates because we don't trust them, because we're cynical, right? But the interesting wording here is 8 damage to weak spots, right? To weak spots. So is this 8 damage doubled inherently because it's hitting a weak spot? Or is this like, it does 4 damage, but we're just going to tell you it does 8 because we're already taking into account the weak spot effect or something? I don't know. I guess also too, like, Reekers don't have a weak spot, so are Reekers completely unaffected by this? The only other thing that I think that's really going to make this card important, because I don't think this card is going to be particularly strong, though having sort of a walking Molotov all the time could be really powerful. I can't really imagine how big 10 meters is, but if it kills hordes of zombies quickly, then basically you have a walking Molotov on your team. But if this 8 damage can be boosted by like fire damage, by pyro, or if it gets boosted by weak spot cards, that can be interesting as well. But in a team setting, we'll probably find that one player running this card is probably really good. That's my assumption on it. But I'm most excited for the mechanic that there's cards now that you can activate that do a thing. And I think this is actually a really good example of a card that you may want to consider in a team setting, disabling your support slot to get this potentially powerful card. So very cool. Out with a bang. This is going to be a must-include card, I think, in team settings. One player on your team will 100% run this card. Your support player will run this card 100%. +1 extra life, that's for you. But a team effect, when a teammate is incapacitated or dies, they drop an active pipe bomb. Active pipe bomb, that's right. We don't need Bile Jars or anything like that. We don't need Expire to 5. If somebody goes down, the entire horde is pulled away to the downed player. Now, I imagine that the grenade blows up and hurts your downed player, but I think you have like 200 to 300 points of health when you go down, something like that. But I think an incredible support card here. A free pipe bomb every time somebody goes down. Personally, when I talked about support in the past, I'm usually a big advocate of prepare to win, don't prepare to die sort of thing. So when it came to my support decks, I was always less is more, sort of bang for your buck sort of ideas, right? Like, extra life is nice, I understand, but it's better if just teammates don't go down in the first place, right? But anyways, Out with a Bang, I think, is gonna synergize greatly with any sort of if any sort of deck where people are running extra lives, or you give the team an extra life. This card is a must-have, I think, because in those crap hit in the fans moments, this will save the rest of your team, like, for sure. And having this, like, I'm sure there's potentially some way to break this, potentially, where you have a teammate go down on purpose and just have ways of restoring extra lives to them. But anywho, I think this will end up being a must-include in team settings for sure. Potentially in solo runs as well, with our bots potentially being our meat shields. We can get a lot of value out of our bots. Potentially. AI Assistant Module. I also think that this is going to be a really good support card. Same thing, activation cost 15 sniper rounds. The other thing too about Expire T5, it doesn't say a duration. I don't know how long this little 8 damage fire weak spot area is going to last. Or if it's like it costs 40 every second or something like that. I don't know. But AI Assistant Module. Activate your quick slot to gain 5 reuse chance for your accessories. Reuse chance increases by 10% until successful. Every time you use an item and you don't get the reuse, it goes up by another 10%. So you go 5, 15, 25, plus whatever else you have, I imagine. Until successful. Effect is removed when damage is taken. So if you have an accessory and you do end up getting the reuse chance, this card turns off. If you take damage, this card turns off. Activation cost 15, sniper ammo. The reason why I think that this card is going to be more of a support card and not really be good for accessory or for offensive slot is that typically in scenarios where you're throwing something, you usually only need to throw one thing, right? For the most part. Usually there's not like, unless it's a tall boy horde, right? Usually you're just throwing one grenade at a time. You throw one pipe bomb at a time. And for the most part, that ends up being all you need to sort of recover and stabilize in those horde events, or with mutations showing up and things like that. So, like, the chances of you getting your 5% reuse chance for just this card alone, right out the gate, unless you're running extra reuse chance with it, probably not going to get a lot of value out of this card when you're throwing a grenade in those scenarios, because you throw your thing, you stabilize, the event is over, and then you move on. And between then and the next time that you need to throw a grenade or something like that, you'll probably take some damage. There's a good chance you'll take some damage. Maybe you're god tier gamer and you never take damage, right? But I just feel when it comes to the offensive slot, from event that requires a grenade to the next event that requires a grenade, there'll be some time that passes. And that might result in this card never really giving you the value that you need. But for support items, especially if you're the support character, right, the horde event is over, you've stabilized, you're safe, you get a moment to take a breath, people are hurt, you pop this, you go over to one teammate, you heal them, you go over to the next teammate, you heal them, you heal yourself. I feel like when that particular setting where you have the support player constantly and actively healing people over the course of a mission is going to lend itself to more opportunities to get the reuse chance to trigger before you end up taking damage, is my take on this. Especially now with there's so many cards right now that I think really benefit bandages and pain pills with like poultice and the overheal, and every time you use an item you get you can recover. Every time you use a healing accessory, your teammate recovers like 3 trauma, right? Things like that. So I think like there's potential here for some sort of like bandage spam healer. When you're running, when you're running support scavenger, which is like a must-have card in no hope mode, you're getting a lot of bandages, a lot of pain pills. So having those little support cards that trigger every time you use one of those accessories potentially could let a lot of value out of that, right? Because you pop it, you heal everyone, you got extra pain pills, you pop them because you need to. It's better to use it than leave it behind, so you pop stuff. All of those things are getting extra reuse chance possible. You get a reuse chance on at least one of them, and if you do get that reuse chance on a thing that you're going to leave behind, that's an extra 3 trauma healed to somebody, an extra healing and overheal to them. So I think this is going to be potential wombo combo card for support decks. So I do feel like we're getting to the point where like you can just have 15 cards that are all support, healing, and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of that. So I don't know if for my particular playstyle and support style that this card will make it in, because it feels like one of many pieces needed in order to get something to work, and I already feel like some of the support wombo combos are already quite card heavy. So we'll see how it looks, but really cool idea, and I think there's some real chance here that at least one teammate might be running this card, and it's probably going to be the support character. The person who will be actively using pretty much all of your healing accessories, right? Because if you have a dedicated healer on your team, you're typically not healing yourself, you're dropping stuff on the ground for them to heal, so they don't just have their slots worth of healing accessories, they have the entire team's slots of healing accessories available to them, because you're providing them to them so that they can get the most value out of them. The last little bit of thing here that I'm not really going to cover too much because I don't like covering things that are not been officially announced. But it looks like some people on Reddit posted data mining stuff. They found images of potentially an Act 5 coming out and other achievements to go with it. So there's a rumor, that's what I want to say, there's a rumor that Act 5 might be releasing with this potential content that we've just covered. Maybe it's after it, we don't really know, right? Which is why I want to just put it out there a little bit, but then back away from it immediately and just say like, hey, it's a rumor, Act 5 could be incoming, which again, that means, for me, more more tutorials, more assisted guides, which I'm excited for. I loved doing the Nightmare Guide. No Hope Guide, not so much, because it was pretty much the same thing, just play more perfectly. But that's it. That's all the content. Very exciting stuff. Look forward to seeing more card reveals if they have them. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I appreciate it. Good to see you. And I will see you guys in the future.